Alrighty. Well, let's see if I got everything going here. Let's see here. We got good audio, video. Yeah, looks like we're good. All right. What's up, CNC Auto Works? Hope you're doing all right down there in your hot part of the world. It was almost 90 degrees here today, bud. So I'm sure you guys had some warm weather over there too. Silver Horse, what's happening, bud? 347, does that annotate a Ford engine, maybe? I'm hoping. I'm a little early, so sorry about that if you were waiting for 7 o'clock. I was just standing here bored, so whatever. Let's see. Used to did. Well, 347 is kind of one of my favorite little engines to build, so I love those little love those little strokers. Yeah, we were about 90 degrees here today too there, but CNC, so pretty close to it anyway. But man, I love that for October weather, for as crappy as it's going to get here in a few weeks. So actually, it's supposed to be nice all this week, and then I head out west to Vegas for next weekend, and it's supposed to be beautiful out there. And then by the time I come back, it's supposed to be in the 60s. So nah, not my thing. If it was well, if it was 90 year round, I'd be pretty happy. So I'd be okay with it. So I guess we'll wait for a few minutes since it was actually 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock that I was supposed to start this thing, but meh, whatever. So just trying to see if I got everything I need here. So I think I did. I kind of laid this out earlier today after I was done kind of working on the car. So hopefully we got everything I need, or at least in the vicinity of where I need it. So let's see here. Yeah, all right. I'm pretty stoked with this live stream setup. Seems to work pretty good. Although that camera's kind of funky. All right, well, let's just go ahead and get started. So anyway, we've done some rebuild videos on the 1406. I think we've done them on, I'll turn that light on. I think we've done them on some of the other Performer series. I can't remember. I think we did an 800 maybe, but haven't done a 1906. And I've been asked for it a couple of times to do a live video or do a rebuild video. And I've heard what the heck. It's always fun to do it live. So that's kind of what we'll do is we'll just do a live stream tonight. And next weekend is going to be a fun one because I think it's next weekend. Let me see. Let me look at the dates here. Let me look at the calendar. Yeah, the 28th, I'll be in Vegas. And then I'll be at the NHRA race all day that day on the 28th. And then Sunday, the 29th. And then probably the 29th, before I head out to the track, I'll shoot a little pre-video of SEMA like I've done every year. That one seems to be fairly popular. Walk around, show you setup day. It's kind of cool to see. You know, you'll see SEMA and all the people, all the booths that are completely set up and done, but I just kind of like to wander through there and show you all kind of a little bit behind the scenes. And setup day is always cool because it's total chaos and it's crazy. So it's always fun to do that. So all right, let me get that out of there. So, but anyway, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about SEMA a little bit later on. But if you have any questions while we're doing the rebuild on this, don't hesitate to ask. That's what I wanted this to be, is certainly ask any questions you got, and as we go along, and makes it a little bit easier, hopefully for you all, to see it. But I will tell you and I think we talked about this on every carburetor rebuild video I've done, there's no set right or wrong way, steps to do this. I do it kind of my own way, but you can certainly do it your own way if you want to work from the ground up and do the main body first and then do the air horn assembly second. That's fine. If you want to do all that first and set it aside, that's great. That's probably what we're going to do tonight. There's a couple of things about this carburetor, unfortunately, when I was tearing it down, that kind of I had somebody that was looking for a 1906. I thought I had a good core. This turned out not to be a good core, but I'll show you that in a minute. But we'll talk about how to do that, how to inspect these to make sure you're getting a good carburetor when you are buying them used, or from somebody off street or whatever. So anyway, first things first. So I think everybody's probably that's watched any of my videos knows that I'm pretty adamant about using the Edelbrock rebuild kit. This one's should be a new one. Yeah, it is. Pretty adamant about using these Edelbrock kits. I don't like. We've done enough reviews on the knockoff kits that are out there. The Walker kit is a good one if you want to save a little bit of money. With inflation and everything else, these have kind of gotten a little expensive. But certainly don't cheat yourself out of having the right carburetor kit. It makes a lot of difference when it comes to making sure that you get the right operation on the thing when you're done. So I'm just going to lay some of this stuff out here, make it a little bit easier for me and for you, I guess. And then we'll talk about some of these things, or most of these things, as we go through them. So instructions are always big. I think we've done a video on the instructions. I'm not sure, but certainly these are great. If you refer back to these, this is one of the only carburetors on the market that has a full set of good instructions. They're not perfect by any stretch, but they're certainly better than anything else is on the market. So if you get stuck on anything, obviously you've got 100 videos that I've done on Edelbrock carburetors, but the instructions are good too. So yeah. So let's go ahead and do the air horn assembly first, because I've got it out here. Now, one of the things I get asked about is, or one of the things I get comments on is, let's see, how did that read? That they thought that this air horn assembly gasket had a certain way that it goes on. It's not left-right specific. It's front-back specific. So if you just look for these holes here, it's where the accelerator pump goes through, or there's a little notch over here on the other side. That's the only thing you need to be aware of. They're not, all these holes are the same for every single carburetor, whether it's the Performer series, the Thunder series, or the AVS2. All of the gaskets that are in this kit work on any single one of those carburetors. So there's one kit part number for all the Edelbrock AVS2, Performer, and Thunder series carburetors. So I almost said all the Edelbrock carburetors, but they've got the VRS carburetor out now, so we can't really say that anymore. So anyway, gasket goes on first, because everything else we're going to start bolting onto this thing. And yeah, if you don't have the gasket on there first, little bit of an issue. So I guess that's the old one. So accelerator pump, orange ones. I've gotten this question quite a bit too. So, hey, I hope that's Riley from Riley's Rebuilds that has joined us. If it is, welcome from Connecticut there, Riley. I will see you here in a week or so. If it's Dad, well, hello, Dad. But anyway, I've gotten a lot of questions about why are some of these orange and why are some of these blue. The short answer to this is both of these are rated for E10 ethanol. They're not. One isn't different than the other. They are both rated the exact same. This will handle E10. It will not handle E85. None of the Edelbrock carburetors are rated for E85. The diameter of these is pretty much the same. Now, some people say, "Well, I've got the darker gasket and the blue gasket, and I think it's wider." It may be, but at the end of the day, these are just a different color. Some of the rebuild kits, because they come from Walker, have the orange kit in it, and then I think Edelbrock buys some of the accelerator pumps separately, so where it may come with a blue one. So. Riley, I can't wait to see you, kid. I've missed you. Yeah, I missed your dad too. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. But anyway, so accelerator pump just goes on there. Not that big of a deal. Very, very simple. That little plunger. Remember, the open side goes down because this will swell to fit into the accelerator pump well. So that goes down. So you're good to go there. Next thing on the top side of this is the floats. So a couple of things with the floats. What I always will do with these is when I tear this down for disassembly, cleaning, whatever, I'll always check to see if the floats are good. Now, the best way to do this, it's not as caustic or potentially ugly for you in a closed shop environment. I've got the garage door closed here tonight. Even though it's hot as blazes in here right now. But you don't want to soak these in gasoline. I use mineral spirits. It's the same specific density as fuel or gasoline. So it's a good one to do, and it's not volatile, not like gas is. So soak those in there and leave them in there for a couple hours. Make sure they're completely submerged in there. And then once you get them out of the mineral spirits, give them a shake. If you can't hear anything, that means the fuel didn't permeate through these seals and they're good to go. So one little thing on those. As far as the floats go, we've had a lot of questions over the course of I don't know, last couple of years. I did a video on the floats for a gentleman that said, well, how come you didn't measure the drop on the float? How come you weren't super critical on that? You were just critical on the float height. And the reason being is the drop isn't nearly as critical as the float height. The height will tell you how much fuel is going to be in the bowls. The drop, because there's a very limited amount of real estate or space that moves in, the drop isn't nearly as critical. Is it still a dimension to check and to make sure you got it right? Absolutely. I'm not discounting that. I'm just telling you that the critical dimension is get the float height set properly. And by height, meaning how close it is to the air horn assembly. So let's go ahead and get one of these in. Just tore open this also too with the seats here. They come with this little screen. Don't leave that out. It's not a restriction. You're not going to outflow that thing. Go ahead and put that in there. It's just one last little place to catch any garbage or crap that may be in there. So go ahead and use that one every single time. Don't cheat yourself out of that, or don't cheat the carburetor out of it. Absolutely use it. So, all right. So I'm just going to get that in there. Let me there it is. One thing too is I've had a couple folks ask about this, that hopefully you can see that seat assembly is at an angle. It's rolled that way. That's on purpose. So when you're screwing these in here, they don't go straight up and down. They're at an angle. So just be aware of that. Don't worry about it if they're, if you see that and go, oh my God, they're at an angle, they must have drilled those wrong. Nope, they're always at an angle. If you see it and it's not an angle, that's when you need to worry about it. So big screwdriver here because we have a big wide jaw to get that in. So now everything on this carburetor, and I do mean everything, is just snug. You're not trying to torque this down. We're talking about just a snug. There's nothing on here that needs to get cranked down, and I'm going to show you that here as we go through this, because there's two ugly spots on this carburetor that unfortunately are going to keep this in my stead and not go up for sale. The needle assembly Viton tip on it, so it will help if you've got the ethanol fuel. It's very good, keeps it from sticking and deteriorating. That's good. So back to the float. You've got the pin and the float. Now, this float will go on either way. I'm going to assemble it upside down to show you that it will go on there. The problem with that, let me get that needle out of there so it doesn't go flying. The problem with that is if you assemble this upside down and you go to check the float, this thing is just going to flop down and kind of dangle. See how it is? Yeah, definitely don't want that. So what that means is that little tab, that's the limiting tab on the drop, was installed incorrectly. So just make that down. That little stop there hits the seat is what that rubs up against or stops up against, and we'll measure this in just a second. So let me go ahead and get this one side in, and we'll talk about measuring, and then we can hit the other side here in a minute if it'll play nice with me. Alrighty, what are you doing? I think that's maybe bent a little bit. Remember, nothing on this has to, get bent really crazy, or, you shouldn't have to force anything on these carburetors. Everything's pretty easy. If you have to force anything on here, you're going to get into a situation where you're going to, hurt something. And again, I'm going to show you that on this carburetor in a minute, because unfortunately, whoever owned this carburetor before certainly didn't take very good care of it. So, why are you fighting me tonight? There we go. Just because that is way, way off. So, as you can see, that float should drop, and it doesn't. So, the reason why that's was so stiff to get in there is because somebody, and I didn't notice it when I was assembling it or disassembling it, had this bent right. This carburetor was horribly abused. You can't really tell by looking at it. It was fairly clean, but it was horribly abused. So we're just going to bend this down so we can get some drop in the float, or add some space between the air horn assembly and the bottom of the float. And I'll show you that more in detail, but all I was going to do is just going to grab hold of the end here and just gently bend it down. Got to be careful. This is a brass float. They're kind of delicate. You'll see that when you get yours opened up, but you're just trying to bend this a little bit. And if it breaks the brazing here, then I just pitch them. I don't use them anymore, but let's just tweak that down just a hair. Let's see if that made that any easier to go together. Yep, quite a bit. So, still don't think that we're right, but okay. Well, we're definitely not right. So, yeah. Yep, doesn't surprise me. Like I said, this one was horribly abused. Let me look at the comments here and see if you guys got anything while we're doing this. There's ticking and clicking noise. It's been flooding. Ticking and clicking. Well, could be a couple of different things on that. A lot of times when you get that ticking sound, and I'll show you that in a minute, sometimes it's the springs, step-up springs are too weak and will cause that piston to bounce up against the cap. This little cover here on the top side. If it's flooding, that's typically other issues, but we can, again, I've got some videos on that too, how to check for those flooding situations, how to correct it. So, all right, let's see how we're actually quite a bit off, but we're getting there. So once you put this together, and it actually goes together, what we're going to do is we're going to measure this distance between the air horn assembly and the bottom of the float. Now, there's two ways of doing this. I'm going to show you both ways to do it, how Edelbrock does it, and I'm going to show you how I do it and the reason behind both of them. It's not that big of a deal. You can do it either way. And one thing about these is when you assemble these floats, if you put this little brazing, they both have it out on one side. The other side is blank. The other eyes. If you have that out, it'll make it a little bit easier to measure it the Edelbrock way. Okay. But I'm going to show you how I do it, and I'm going to show you how Edelbrock does it. And I'll tell you the reason why too. So the drop is, I think, way excessive. All right. I'm going to grab our little trusty ruler that comes in the kit. So what this kit has is on this side, you'll see these are in inches. So you've got a 1 inch, 2 inch. What you are looking for is that one tick under. Okay. So it's that 15/16 drop. And all you do, get around the camera here. All you do is you're going to take the ruler, put it up against the gasket. Now, I always hold it down to make sure that there's no air between the gasket and the, my pin fell out. No air between the gasket and the air horn assembly. You want it flat up against there. Make it a little bit harder to do with make this so you all can see it. So the way Edelbrock tells you is to go by the center of the float, and that's what that little dot is there for. And all you're going to do is you're going to measure it from this base plate to just that one tick under the 1 inch mark. Now you're looking for that at the bottom of the float. Okay. All right. So a couple of things here. The reason why I don't like that is two reasons. Back when that was designed with that ruler and setting the depth, most of these, I think I can say it pretty universally, that ethanol and fuel wasn't a deal. We didn't have that. We didn't have a ton of those fuel additives that are in there. The problem with ethanol in fuel is I'm down here fairly close to sea level. I'm under 500 foot, which is, it might as well be sea level for what we're going to talk about. But ethanol at that level, at sea level, boils at about 173 degrees. 173 degrees. Why is that critical? The problem is when you drive this thing around and, spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, doesn't matter, drive around the block, whatever the case may be, and then you stop off to, get a drink or grab a bite to eat, whatever, go into a friend's house to pick them up, whatever, spend 10 minutes talking to mom and dad before you run out the door and you go back in to start the vehicle. Sometimes it's hard to start. That is because that ethanol has boiled out of the bowls and down into the system. Now, how do we cure that? We've cured that with the phenolic or wood laminate spacers. I don't think I have one hanging up here. I do, but it's buried. But I've got a good video on heat soak and how to cure all that. But that's the reason why. So what I do is I will do this a little bit differently. Now, the other way that Edelbrock says you can do this is with the 7/16 drill bit. And with that drill bit, you'll roll it underneath there. And same thing, roll it to the center. And then as you roll it in there, it will tell you if or help you determine the float level. Now I can already tell you that based on that measurement that I was a little high here. So as we slide that, so we can keep the pin from falling out, as we slide the 7/16 drip bit underneath here, you can tell I'm way off of it. So what that means is we have to drop that float down closer to the top. That means it's going to put more fuel in the bowl, okay? Here's the issue that I have with that. The other side of this is Edelbrock says you can use that 7/16 bit to get the correct float setting or get the correct level of that float. This is a 7/16 bit. I use a 1/2 inch. I use a 1/2 inch bit because I want to carry a little bit less fuel. The bit will, when you roll that 1/2 inch underneath there, will push the float up, which means it pushes the float down in the bowl here, meaning you'll carry less fuel inside the float bowl, okay? I take it a step further, and instead of doing it in the middle, I do it right here on the edge because it's a little bit easier to get, I think, repeatable than it is sometimes on the middle, because sometimes the middle is subjective. So let's go ahead and drop this down a little bit and install it again, and we'll show you what that looks like. So hopefully that pin won't fly out of there. So if we use just the tip, and as soon as it starts to hit and start to raise the float, see how we're just a little ways in there? I know that I need to come down with it a little bit. If I use the 7/16, it's going to go way underneath there. See how far it goes underneath there before it starts to move that float? That's why I use the 1/2 inch, because I want a little bit the float to be a little bit deeper into the bowl for that exact reason. Just carry a little less fuel. I set all these carburetors up this way for where I'm at, just simply because of that reason. I just want to carry a little less fuel. Now, if I'm rebuilding for somebody else in there in Wisconsin or New York or Connecticut, like Riley is, I may set them a little bit closer with the 7/16 bit. But anyway, a little too much, so you can kind of see, hopefully, that bit is hitting the front. But I want to go just a little bit down with that float, and we should be pretty good. So just bend this. Like I said, it's tiny, tiny little tweaks here. They're not big, dramatic movement here. That's right about where I want it. So right as you start to get underneath the tip of that float is right where you want that to start to see the float move. This one is set correctly. Now, let's talk about the drop. I think I realized I just said that wrong a minute ago, but no big deal. You'll figure that out here in just a second. So same thing on the drop. That measurement is the same. So same way. So Edelbrock wants you to measure it off of that little knob right there. And that's where your 15/16 comes in. Sorry, I think I said that earlier. That's 15/16 on the level of the float and not on the drop. But same thing. It'll want you right there at the bottom of the float. I still will do that because the drop isn't as critical, and that's pretty much spot on. Pretty close. Again, I did a video on that to kind of, and it was ridiculous, but to show that the drop isn't really the critical one. What somebody had said is if the float drops too far into the bowl, the needle will come out, and it won't. So spoiler alert, I guess. So anyway, that's how to set up the float. So I'm going to do the other side here really quick, and then I guess we'll leave a comment, see if I missed anything. So anyway, hope that made sense. It's not overly complicated, and I know Riley's done hundreds of these too, or more, probably at this point in her career. But you just kind of get used to it. You get used to the feel of where these go and how much adjustment you need to make to get the right drop. Sometimes you get it perfectly spot on, and other times it takes you a minute or two, especially that one with it was so far out of whack. But again, this carburetor, like I said, was healthily abused, even though it didn't show signs of it. But we're going to talk a little bit of that too as we go along here tonight. Just simply because if you were to buy this carburetor used off Marketplace or wherever, there's some key things to look for. I'm going to show that to you in just a second after I get this assembled. So seat is in. We put our needle in, grab either a float and our other pin. And we'll see this one is already, I can tell, is way more closer. So, whoa, the drop is way off. See how far off the drop is? That's because that little tab has been, like I said, this poor little carburetor was horribly abused. So, anyway, let's get the half-inch bit again, and then, wow, I'm pretty bang on the height. So that I'm going to leave alone, but the drop is way off, and all we're doing, like I said, is just bending that tab, and that one's been, phew, man. I'm going to first flatten that thing out. It's got a little curve in it, so I think generally when that happens is when people try to adjust this on the assembled, and they'll bend the float to try to get it to get the setting they want. The problem with that is it loosens up the solder, and it's just very difficult to do it. So it takes 2 seconds to do it, just to remove it. But I'm going to bend this down quite a bit. See if we can get a little closer to that 15/16. Yeah, much better. Let's see how far off we are. Remember, we got to get that gasket flat on there. We're still a little too deep, so just a little tweak. Like I said, the drop, I don't worry too much about the drop. It's the level that I'm mostly concerned with. So, not that the drop's not important. I don't want you to think that. It's just not the. It's a little too much. Like I said, these are tiny little adjustments. So, I mean, you're barely telling that you move the thing, and it makes quite a bit of difference on that. I think I may have done it just a little too much. Actually, you know what? That's bang on. We'll call that good. So anyway, that little, I always save these. I've got hundreds of them, I think. Or did I throw them all out? Yeah, I got rid of quite a bit of stuff, trying to clean out. But anyway, I always hang on to that little ruler. Something you can use down the road. So anyway, once you get the float set, that's pretty much it. The top side of this is, for the most part, done. When we get it back over, I guess on the other side, I will show you. I guess we can do it now. When I bought this carburetor, I didn't spend a lot of time looking at it. The outside was really super clean. The date code was fairly current. I think it was within 5 years. So that carburetor is not that old. It's maybe 5, maybe 6 years. I can't remember. What I should have done, and what I always do, is remove the fuel inlet fitting. This thing had been cross-threaded in there. Now, what I will end up doing with this, because those threads are a little jacked up, I don't know if you can see that or not on the camera. I guess you kind of can. It will still thread in there a little bit, but I'm just a couple threads in there, and the more I tighten that down, the more it's going to cross thread in there. What I'm going to end up doing, because I'm going to keep this carburetor on my own, I'm going to put the end that I want on this, which is not this one. I'm going to put an AN -6 hose on here, and then I will use this for a future carburetor. So unfortunately, this one's not going to be for sale. It's just going to be one that I'm going to use to do some testing. Had I taken that off, that is the, you can't really tell, but it's kind of concave, that washer, that little flat washer. So had I taken that apart, I would have seen this. But unfortunately, that air horn assembly is pretty much garbage at this point. Now you can retap these a little bit. Unfortunately, you can't really tell here, but when I disassembled it, over that cloth, and all that material off of there came off there. So what I will end up doing is I will put a -6 AN out of that, and I'll epoxy the thing in there and call it good. So anyway, just one thing to check. When you're buying a used carburetor, go ahead and take that side out. You don't need to take out the other side, the plug, unless you want to, but always, always, always take that out of there for a couple of different reasons. One, you can see if the screen is still in there. So if it's been removed out of there, you know somebody's been inside that carburetor. But the next thing you're going to do is take the air horn assembly off to look on the inside of that carburetor when you buy it used. We'll talk about that here in a quick second. But unfortunately, this one's kind of trash, but I'm going to go ahead and put it together because, like I said, I'll use this internally for just some testing that we'll end up doing. So anyway, now that you've got that done, just set it aside, and then we'll get busy here on the main body, and I will show you some different things on the main body here as we go together. Now, again, the AVS2 is not any different than the Performer Series carburetor. Gaskets and all out are the same. So if you're watching this video looking for the AVS2 info, this is going to work just fine on the Performer Series as well. Some of the stuff is going to be AVS specific, but again, we'll talk about it as we get there. Now, again, you don't have to do this in a certain order. You don't have to do the primary side first, the secondary side first, jets, whatever it is you're going to do, it doesn't really matter. What I typically like to do is I like to break open that little gasket set that I just did. And once you get through that, because it's the correct number of gaskets and the correct type, you'll know that you're pretty much done in there. Once I see those off the mat, I know that I'm done, but we got a long way to go. So let's go ahead and do the nozzle first, because that one's kind of easy. There's only one nozzle gasket in here. It only goes on one way. So you'll see that as you're assembling it. You can't put this on wrong. It will not line up correctly. Okay. So there is some specific hardware. This is the smaller T15, is it? I can't remember. I'll look here in just a second. But it's a smaller Torx head on the nozzle. Everything else, most everything else anyway, is going to be the bigger T25. So, oops, forgot to do something. We need a little weight and check ball. Now, let's talk about that really quick here. Check ball always goes in first, okay? It's not a 177 BB. I get asked that quite frequently, if they can use a 177 ball out of a BB gun. No, it's different. And now, for whatever reason, it's escaping me what size it is. But anyway, the ball goes in there first. In the kit, Edelbrock has this little spring, and I know you probably can't see that. In the bag comes this little weight and then the spring. I will almost always generally default, well, I do always default to the weight and the check ball. if you have, or if you're rebuilding this for yourself and it's for an off-road vehicle, use the spring, because that spring does a better job of holding the check ball down. And as the accelerator pushes fuel through the main body of the carburetor and out through the nozzle, that spring does a better job of keeping that check ball in place. You don't want fuel leaking out of there, especially if you're at an angle. And sometimes that weight will do that. On a street car, not necessary. That little spring is included in the kit, but just be conscious that it's in there. But always use the weight. Check ball first, weight second. So hopefully that's pretty simple, but always use the weight. So let me take a look at the comments here. Do you use the big screen too? Yeah, good point, Riley. When we were talking about the inlet, using the spring, or excuse me, the screen on that side is a good idea. Yes, do I use it? Absolutely, because what we're trying to do is, Edelbrock carburetors aren't horrible with the amount of garbage that comes into it, but it's bad enough that anything you can do to help cure that is a good thing. Now, again, I've had people say, don't use this spring, or why I keep saying spring, don't use this screen because it will restrict the fuel flow. It does a little bit, and I've got another test that I'm going to do to show you how much that this restricts, and it's really not a lot at 6 psi. Remember, 4.5 to 6 psi is the range that these carburetors generally like, and anything less or more than that is usually a problem. But at 6 psi, this is fine unless it gets clogged up. But if it gets clogged up, it's better to have it in here than have it into the main metering circuit or the secondary circuit. So use it because it'll keep the garbage out of there. Thank you for reminding me of that, Riley. I forgot all about that. I guess it's probably because that air horn assembly is so jacked up that one thing I'm going to talk about here before, in case I lose Riley, I want to say a couple of things about Riley's rebuilds. Riley, I don't even know if you noticed this or not, but I think a year or so ago when you gave me your, maybe it was at SEMA time last year. I think it was at SEMA time last year. You gave me your Riley's rebuild sticker, and I keep that on my toolbox so everybody can see that. If you need a carburetor rebuilt, I don't do these anymore for quite a few reasons, but the biggest reason I want you to use Riley's rebuilds. Use them for your rebuild needs. She's got a Shopify store. She's on Facebook, Instagram, and I think you can order a rebuild from there, or I think they've got rebuild carburetors on sale on their eBay store. But have Riley rebuild it. Those it used to be an all-girl team. Now it's her brother doing it while Riley's off at college, and they're young kids. But the thing that just overjoys me is the level of technical expertise that they've developed. And who's ever heard of a 17-year-old girl in today's world? Well, actually, she's a little older than 17. Sorry, Riley. But at the time, anyway, when I met her, 17-year-old girl that was just decided to rebuild carburetors. That doesn't happen in today's world. So give Riley some love. If you need a carburetor rebuilt, go through Riley's rebuilds. They will get it rebuilt for you. It's all supervised by her dad, so I think he's kind of the QC guy. I think for the most part, Riley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he just makes sure that they're done correctly, and they've done hundreds and hundreds of these carburetors, so I think they're pretty dialed in. The other side of that is what I wanted to talk about is CRC. Now, I'm not sponsored by CRC. I should be, but I'm not. And you know what? I think I'm out of my carburetor cleaner. But I usually use the carburetor cleaner, but I use their brake cleaner, degreaser. This one's the other one that I use outside of the carburetor cleaner. That works really, really well. The reason why I've gone to CRC is really two reasons. One, local racer here in the Memphis area, Clay Milliken, good friend. He and I interact over on Instagram quite a bit. Super good guy, super cool racer. I've participated in a few of his things that he's done over the last, well, couple of years, I guess, with his car show and all his other things. But he is a super, super, super nice guy. But Clay is sponsored by CRC. So as soon as I saw that they were willing to make that investment in him, I just switched over to start using CRC. What I didn't know, to go full circle back to Riley, is CRC is a sponsor of a little deal called the Tech Force Foundation. And what Tech Force Foundation, that's right. Tech Force Foundation does scholarships for young folks that are looking for a scholarship into college. And Riley, from Riley's Rebuilds, won their scholarship a couple months ago. I don't remember that one that was. She'll let us know in the comments there. Maybe 2-3 months ago, Riley won the deal. So I like that CRC partners with that Tech Force Foundation for scholarships for, young folks that are looking to get into more of the technical side of things on the automotive world. Absolutely love that. So I will always support a manufacturer that is really good when it comes to, working with younger folks. And CRC certainly does that through that Tech Force Foundation. And I absolutely will be a fan of CRC till they no longer do that. So they sponsor Clay Milliken. That's a huge hit for me. But the one that sends it over the top is their sponsorship of that Tech Force deal. So I will leave a link. I think I already put it down in the description to the tech or the CRC side of things. And I think you can click through to the Tech Force deal if you want to look at it. But anything that helps young folks stay passionate and aggressive about, working in the industry, I absolutely love that. So anyway, didn't mean to get off too on a tangent there, but absolutely love what they do. So, and good on Riley for winning that thing. You're my hero, Riley. You just don't know it yet. All right. Okay, nozzle in. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw the jets in just simply because they're there and they're kind of a pain to do a little bit. And we've got a couple of things that are going to happen here in a minute where I just need them in. Now, I took a look at these. The larger jets on the 1906 go in the front, the primary. There is a marking on here. If you go to my website, musclecarsolutioncarbs.com, and you go to the resource side, you will get there's a download there. You can download for free. I don't charge for any of that stuff. Where you can get the numbers off here because the numbers that are on here are different than the sizing. So this is a 101 sized jet, but it's marked on here as 401. Okay, that's the primary jet. The secondary jets, which again you can't see, the numbers are small, is marked 398, but that is a 0.098 sized jet. But again, sometimes without that little free chart, it's hard to know that. Or if you've got these loose, but you can read the number, well, I can't. I have to take a picture of it and expand it out because my eyes are old and getting old sucks. But that chart's in there, so you can download that for free. So you just make sure. But go ahead and drop the jets in. Again, they got a little step on there, so it makes it kind of easy. Once you get it kind of in there, makes it easy. I grind down screwdrivers. I think I did a little 2-minute tech video on this to make a little bit wider so it fits into that jet. But all we're going to do is get that started. And again, that's just really, really finger loose. That's about it. I'm not going any tighter than that. Don't over tighten these. If they get stuck, in this main body, you're done. It's trashed. So don't over tighten anything on here. Remember. So I can't read that anyway. I don't know why I'm acting like I can. I just know it's the right size because I looked at it a minute ago. So, but like I said, because it's stepped, you can just kind of bounce it around a little bit and it'll get in there right. So again, it's fully seated, just a little snug. All right, we'll go ahead and throw the secondary jets in. So that's the reason why when we talk about buying these carburetors used is to always take the air horn assembly off. If there's a lot of garbage in here, if it's white, chalky, weird, even rusty, it's generally due to the ethanol and the water that alcohol attracts getting in here. It's not the ethanol. Well, the ethanol is bad because it's kind of caustic, but it's all the other crap that ethanol drags through here. So the jets are usually the first thing to suffer. If you get one of these that are, you can't get the jets out of it, but it's got a bunch of residue in the bottom of it, that's probably the reason why. Is the trying to stay away from the front of the camera here, because the water has gotten in there and allowed that jet to freeze itself into that aluminum body. So that's why when you go to buy one of these new or used, that's the other little tip, is to make sure you take the air horn assembly off and just do a visual inspection. If you have a jet screwdriver or something where you can just make sure that those are loose, or you can loosen them up, that's another good one, because if you can loosen up those four, for the most part, you're probably okay with the cleaning, but you're going to take a little bit of a shot or a risk with that anyway, because sometimes you may get some stuff in here. We'll talk about that here in a quick second on the idle mixture screws on this ugly old carburetor. But anyway, jets are in. Just one of those little things you can test while you're doing it. Now, the boosters confuse people, and the good news is Edelbrock does this pretty well. So on the website with that we just had the chart for the rods and jet marking identification. I've also got identification so you can identify the boosters as well too. These boosters on the top are stamped, and again, you're not going to be able to see that, I don't think, but there's numbers on top of there. The numbers will tell you two things. One, if they're the right size for your carburetor. This happens to be the 600 AVS2. I know that these are correct. I think I can kind of read that. 7152, and this should be 53. I can barely read that, but I know it is because like I said, I took pictures of it and expanded the heck out of it. You know that these are the two right sized boosters for this carburetor. Now, why is that important? The 500 CFM booster, hang tight. The 500 CFM booster will fit in there, but it will not meter fuel properly. Okay, see the difference between these boosters? That great big, well, that's an annular and that's a down leg or a straight leg style booster. But see the difference in those? The diameter of it's different. It's because of the airspeed going through there. You need the air to go at a different speed on a 500 CFM carburetor to pick up the, because the CFM is not as big. 500 CFM, 650 CFM, more volume of air, meaning potentially more speed, which means that this low pressure area underneath the booster here will draw fuel at a different rate and time than it will out of a 500. But the 500 booster fits in there just fine. You could put it, well, you can't put it on that side because it's in the wrong. I'll talk about that in a second. But it will fit in there, no problem. So You just want to verify that you have the correct booster in there. Again, that's a 500 CFM booster. We know that's not right for that 650. So just be aware of that. Glad I had those sitting there. Let me see if there's any comments. Riley just happy about her little deal with the Tech Force folks. Okay, now let's talk about gaskets, because this is another one. How do you know how the gaskets go on there? The gaskets can go on a little bit cocky, but sometimes I've seen people do it, and I think this is another thing that was wrong with this carburetor. Somebody had rebuilt this, tried to shove these on here the wrong way. They will only kind of really go on one way, but you could physically do that. Now, another way to know where it goes in the carburetor is, and I know this may be a little difficult. Okay, you can kind of see that. See how that's a square right there? Yeah. You can kind of see that square. See how that gasket is squared? Trying to find a spot. See how it's square up here on this corner? That's because it fits right into that corner. See this little notch down here? That little notch is right down in there. Don't know if you can see that. So anyway, these gaskets only go in one way. If you try to put them in the other way, they're not going to fit correctly. Okay? Try to get it flipped around and that corner and the backside, whatever, the gasket will fit in there a little bit, especially if you put it on the booster and shove it down there, but it will not get in there correctly. So just remember that little corner and that little corner line up. Now, how do you know which side the booster goes on? The easiest way, again, you can download the chart, the reference, so you got the part numbers on there. That's always a good one to have. But this little tube here that gets the reference from the outside air, okay, that always goes to the back side of this little deal. And you'll know it's correct because the booster fits in there nice and easy. Okay, this will go here on the other side. The problem is it doesn't kind of see how it rocks in there. That air tube needs to be to the back. That means you know that that has to go on the passenger side of the carburetor. Now it's in there. It's nice and deep. It's flush. It allows that to bolt on there. Same with the gasket. Again, we're talking about that little square notch. See how it's notched on the booster? Make sure it's notched on the gasket. See the notch up there? Slides on. Goes in there. And you're ready to bolt it down. That was the problem with this one, is somebody had that gasket on one of these incorrectly. So same thing on the other side. Just be aware of that notch. Be aware of the notch. Goes on there. And then make sure that tube is the backside. Now, again, if you download the chart from the website, it will tell you which part number goes on the left and right. So you can do that as well too. Now, hardware. If you screw up and get this hardware mixed up, okay, this is the heads are the same. It's a T25, but they're two different lengths. Hopefully that's easy enough to see. Two different lengths. The longer hardware is for your boosters. The shorter hardware is for the air horn assembly. Short on the outside, long on the inside. These will physically go in here, and they will screw down. Not many threads, but when you get to the outside and try to have the long threads in some of these that are not a blind hole, which most of them are, but you can run into some issues where the hardware will not seat the air horn assembly down there. So just long hardware goes on the inside. Now, Riley's going to kill me for this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because I know it's one of her favorite things, and I don't disagree with her. It is kind of cool. But I never use air when it comes to assembling these. Now, I don't do these in a ton. I don't do 500 of these a year. anymore, I do probably less than 20 a year. It's more for local folks and myself, whatever. But don't ever use air or an electric gun to screw those down. Just don't. The reason being is they use air on these tools from at the factory. If you watch my Edelbrock Foundry video, you'll see some of those, I think, with those folks with the little air gun screwing them down in there. It's okay on the first time going in there, but the reason why I don't use that on these here is especially on this carburetor. If those threads are boogered up a little bit, the air is just going to make it worse, or the electric gun is just going to make it worse. I always use just fingertip or hand, because if it starts to bind up on you, you know you got problems. So these I think are going to be okay, but there's some things on this carburetor that are certainly not okay. Now, again, just like everything else, just snug these down. They don't need to be that tight. You're not sealing up a ton of, nothing that you're sealing here is that crazy. So it's not like it's a, you need a ton of clamping force to seal this thing down. It's just a snug little fit, and you'll get it. You'll understand it once the hardware is down up against what it is, and it bottoms out. Just a little bit of a snug, and that's all you need. I should probably measure that in inch pounds one of these days, but I imagine it's probably not a lot. So just a little twist. Okay, that's it. Primary boosters are in. Now, secondaries, same way. This one's a good one because the 1906 has, hang on, let me get another booster here. Glad I grabbed that box. So, okay. See, I cheat. I write the part number on there. This is for an 800 CFM. This one is for, I think, yeah, I didn't write it on here because you can read. This for a 1406. See how this has the little transfer tube on there on the big side? That's where the fuel pulls from the bowl. Okay, it's where, or through the jet and from the bowl. It's also got the little air bleed on there. They only really go in one way. Okay, there's no way to get those in correctly. So you always know that you'll get that in right, because that bleed or that pickup is not going to go in there any other way. But how do you know if it's just the center tube and that will go on either side? It's the same way on the primaries. This one I know goes on that side because it sits nice down in there. It's nice and flush. It's not a lot of rocking back and forth. If you try to put it on this other side, it does not seat down in there. It's really hard to look at that and see. See how it's kind of sticking up along that edge? Again, it should fit in there nice and easy. No dropping or no nothing forced. Drops down in there flush. So I know that that's the driver's side and this is the passenger side. Now, also, too, these are marked on here. So the part number's on there. Again, if you download that reference chart that I have on the website, you'll see that. So, okay. Now, gaskets. I guess before we get to that, I have two things I need to do. One, I need to look at the comments. And two, tonight it's Yingling. So we're an hour in and I haven't even touched that stuff. So. All right, let me get these out of the way. Oh, Piston Twisted, my favorite Canadian. Oh, yeah. Good to see you, buddy. I'm glad you made it. That's a really good channel, too, if you want one to watch. He does some really, really cool stuff. It's kind of evolved a little bit over the last year or so. Correct me if I'm wrong there, my friend, but he's gotten really, really in depth now into the vintage motorcycle stuff. And I just absolutely love the quality of video on your channel. Dude, you make me look like a absolute amateur when it comes to the production on mine. But if you want really good, beautiful video, he hasn't done a lot of them. I know he's got a lot going on in his life right now, which you'll see, but go over and subscribe to his channel. Make sure you subscribe to Riley's channel as well too. But yeah, if you want some really good vintage motorcycle stuff, Piston Twisted is the way to go. So anyway, I'm glad you're here, bud. One thing on these secondary gaskets, see that little notch right there? Easiest way I can tell you to know which way that goes is that notch is on the front side of the carburetor sticking out. Okay. That's the easiest way to be able to tell. So when you put it on there, oops. Now I'm all screwed up. When it goes on there, that notch goes to the front. That makes sure everything that you need uncovered on the inside is uncovered. Again, these were installed wrong on the last carburetor. And when you go to put those in there, it seats down in there nice and flush. Remember, that was important. Same thing on this side. Notch is going to go to the front. There's the booster. And nice and easy. Again, you can get these wrong, but if you do that, so this was the booster for the passenger side, it just doesn't fit, and the gasket's all cockeyed in there. And guess what they were like when I disassembled this? Yeah. So anyway, part number can help you. The gasket's easy because, like I say, that notch will just always kind of give you a quick reference. But download that chart and print it. Trust me, I use it all the time. I don't have it on this side of the garage. It's on the other. But again, it's certainly a critical one. Now, the other long hardware is going to go into here. So we're actually getting really close here. So no, it doesn't seem like it, but we're getting very close to being done. We got some choke work to do and a couple of other little details to talk about, but again, nice and easy. You don't need to, if you run into a situation where this hardware is fighting you excessively, there's an issue with the main body and what it's screwing into, and you just don't want to, you'll be fighting it coming out on the other side. Or if you're just rebuilding it and sending it down the road and on a vehicle you're trying to sell or whatever and don't care, I guess you could just crank it down there and the next guy will have to deal with it. But that next guy will be either me or Riley, and I don't think either one of us wants to play with that. So just go by hand and nice and easy. If there's any binding or tightness, you know, when you're halfway, just stop. So, okay. Boosters are in, nozzles in. A couple other things real quick here. These are your little baffles. It can go in both ways. All right. These will slide in physically either way. The problem with that is this little indentation. You can see it. There's a little, it's kind of indented on the backside. Maybe you can see that. I'm trying to, yeah, you can see that. So that indentation goes to the back side of the carburetor. Okay. And that's going to help the float operate correctly. All right. So all I do is just push them in there and then just tap them down so they're nice and flush. Okay. Easy peasy. All right. What else we got? New spring for the accelerator pump. It just drops down into the little well there. You can kind of see the, oops, see a little divot in there. That's a spring in there. That's for your accelerator pump to push down onto. So that was the old one. I always hang on to the old hardware for whatever reason. That's a bad habit, or maybe it's a good habit. I don't know. Okay. For the most part, we're done, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about this now just because it's here and I got time to do it. We talked about on rebuild videos in the past that on the idle mixture screws, always one thing to do is just check to make sure that there's no little ridge, and you can't see one on there anyway, but that's just a little point. It sticks down in there, and that is what stops or increases flow or changes the flow of the fuel through the idle mixture circuit. One thing that I didn't do on this carburetor when I picked it up is this one's good. See how it's got the point on it? See how this one doesn't have a point on it? It's because there is the tip. It was broken off, and it was broken off on the inside of the carburetor. Now, thankfully, a pin gauge, I usually use like a 70, I think slides through there pretty easily from the backside, because what it'll do is, let me grab this other body off here. All right. Got this other main body that we've used for demonstration purposes before. Let me find something to. All right. So you can see that. Yeah. Trying to do this and see it on the camera. See this hole right here? That is the hole that your idle mixture screw goes into. Okay. That other big bright spot, you can see it better over on this side, is the transfer slot. Okay. So when we talk about setting idle mixture, you need the speed low enough, RPM low enough, that it's not going to screw up that or be fast. So you're into the transfer slot. You want all the fuel metered out of those mixture screws. And that's where that was in, is you can take a little pointer. Like I said, I use a little pin gauge to push that out. And that's what I was able to do. Long story short, is I was able to use that to get that little tip of that idle mixture screw out of there. So again, just something pretty quick and easy to do to make sure that the carburetor is in good shape. Now I need to replace that, which brings me up to a second point here. But like I said, this doesn't have a little ridge on there, and it's not rolled over. It should be good. So I talked about in the past of I keep a lot of service repair parts here. That's a good one. I keep a lot of service repair parts just because I have in the past anyway rebuilt a lot of carburetors, and having a lot of stuff like this laying around is certainly good. Lots and lots of gaskets, baffles, connecting rods for the accelerator pump assemblies, needle and seat assemblies, idle speed screws, idle mixture screws, all the gaskets for the boosters we just talked about, a lot of hardware, a lot of nozzles, clips, you name it. I keep a lot of. This is just one of the boxes that I use. I haven't had this in quite a long time. Okay, I did. But I've got on the website and I apologize, I'm going to talk about me for just a minute. But anyway, I usually don't have enough stuff to do these, but I put together a master rebuild kit. So within here, there's every jet and rod combination, all of them, all the pairs, a bunch of the different hardware, pistons, all the different step-up springs, quite a few different, all of them, but quite a few pairs of them. Needles, all of the gasket sets, a lot of the miscellaneous hardware in case you get one that's all screwed up. There's enough stuff within these kits to do floats. There's enough gaskets and stuff in here to do probably 3 carburetors, but I will tell you that if you purchase one of these off the website, I load this thing up. You will probably have enough gaskets and all the pieces that you need, some additional stuff with the 3/8 inch thick isolator, tons of, well, I can tell there's 3 different ones, but you know, if I had enough to put 2 of these together here recently, and sold one of them already, but this one is available on the website. But if you want to rebuild these carburetors on your own, this is a pretty cool way to get involved in it really quickly and pretty easily. Now, I usually don't send out a lot of these little boxes, but if you order it and you want another one of these Plano boxes to use, because I jam pack it in here, but you will have enough stuff in here that if you want to start your own little carburetor rebuilding deal, I think total at retail, if you bought all these things individually, and some of these are service repair parts that aren't available, you can't get them unless you call Edelbrock and beg them to send you one, which they'll do. But you get it all here. And at retail, the things you can buy retail, there's over like $1,400 worth of stuff in this kit. And I include all the other stuff. And I think I sell it for $575 on the website. So if you want to get into rebuilding stuff, you can do it with that kit. So anyway, just thought I'd plug something on my own for a minute. I don't do that very often, so thanks for living with that. Let's look at the comments. Found one of the classic British bikes. Yeah, he's getting ready to move from Canada to another part of the world, which that is a daunting task. I've done that a few times in my military career, and let me tell you, that is not an exciting thing, but or it's a very difficult thing. You know what? See, the hardware is different. The newer mixture screws have a Torx head in there. That's the older style, which means this carburetor has been monkeyed with more than I thought it was. Just by seeing that, I'm going to take that out and just throw in the newer hardware, even though this one's just going on my shelf. It'll make me feel better when I see it. My OCD won't kick in. Cool. See how there, one's the blade and one's got the blade and the little Torx. So not that big of a deal, but I'm not really OCD. My wife is like crazy, so not that she'll be tuning any carburetors, but I have a little bit of it, not much. So I'm usually the one messing with her. So okay, let's see, where are we at? There are some other things in here that we will not end up using. These little clips for the choke housing. There's a couple of different ways. Like this one's got the style with the ring. These are ones with just the little clips that clip onto the outside of it, which work well. But we've got the ring, so I'm going to use that. So these I just save in case I need them. Put that on there. And let's put the choke out assembly on there. Talk a little bit about choke too, I guess, while we're here. I think I started to do that on the live stream the other night, but I don't think I got very far with it. So, okay. This is the choke housing. It's in pretty good shape. But remember, before you assemble this, this connecting rod needs to be on there. If this connecting rod is not on there, when you assemble this, it's going to make you pretty frustrated because you can't really assemble that rod on there without it. Now, there's a gasket that comes into the kit that goes right here. What that gasket is for is it seals up this choke body to the vacuum port that's on the carburetor that pulls, and I'll show it to you in a minute once we get it all bolted on here, that pulls air into the choke to keep the thing from melting down. So I'll show you all that in just a quick minute. Let me just get this bolted on so I don't, oops. So I don't lose that gasket. Okay, I want to talk about this in a second too, but let me get this on here so I can secure it quick, and then we'll talk about something here real quick on the choke housing. Same thing, nice and snug, but not overly tight, and no reason for it. So, okay, that's not going anywhere. Now, choke hardware, same thing. You've got two different lengths of hardware. All right. The longer hardware goes on the inside. Remember, longer hardware went inside there. Okay. The reason being is it's got to go through that main choke body. Okay. Longer hardware goes on the inside. The shorter hardware is what attaches the spring and cap assembly to the outside of the choke. Short on the outside, same on the air horn assembly and boosters, and long on the inside. So just wanted to make sure we talked about that really quick before we get any further, because that's an important one for sure. And you'll see that as it goes together that you got to kind of have it that way. But, and then, like I said, we're going to talk about a common question I get asked quite frequently. But, all right. Check the comments here in just a second too. So, all right. Our choke body is on there. Now, see a comment. I love your channel. Yeah, I love Riley's channel too. I love Riley. She's a good kid. Good friend. All right, choke assembly. On the inside, you got a little hook. That little hook is to grab that there. Now, on the choke assembly, you'll know this if it's a knockoff because they don't have this little plastic hose that's over the little deal there. And what it does is it tends to wear on the spring. So what you're doing is you want that little hook to hook up underneath there. So as long as that's low, then you'll be fine. Okay. So let me get this a little snug on here, and then I'm going to show you how you'll know if you've got it on there right. And you can screw this up. I've done it occasionally. I'm not perfect, especially if I get rolling on something pretty quickly. To where you'll put this in incorrectly. But I'll show you how to adjust the choke in just a second here. Just kind of get this not snug. You just want them not even down on there, because if they're snug on there, which I think I just snugged that top one too much, it'll make the choke cap hard to turn. So okay. Now, as you rotate that, you will feel it catch. You will feel the spring catch. Okay. You'll feel the spring. See, the spring is spinning the cap backwards. That we know the spring is in there. Now, or it's tensioned correctly. Now, because I don't have this hooked up to the top side, this makes it a little bit harder to do. But all we're going to do is on the, see the tick marks on there? You got that one long one. That's the base. Go to the base, go back one, and you can lock it down. That's the base setting for this choke. And once it's locked down there, it'll keep it from spinning around, and we should be good to go. So, oh, you know what I did? When I let go of that, you see how the cap moved? It's because I forgot something. And it's pretty important. Does anybody know what I forgot? I know what I forgot. And I do this on every rebuild. I'll forget something. Y'all are quiet in the comments tonight, other than me giving Riley a hard time, I guess. Not really a hard time. Gasket goes on the body. So, see how it just fits in there. I forgot to put the gasket on. So, same thing. We'll just put that hook underneath there, and then we can adjust it in a minute. So, like I say, these carburetors are pretty easy. You'll know when you screw something up. Because, yeah. You'll go to let go of that choke housing and or cap, and it goes flying on you. All right. We'll go back through this again and set that choke. And you'll see that it won't, cap won't rotate. Kind of weird trying to do this on camera and making sure you can see everything. So, all right, same thing. Just loosen this up just a hair. Yep. So, spring's caught, starting to get tension on this rod right here. See, I got it on my thumb. I can start to feel the tension on it. So, one tick under that. There's tension on my thumb here. And then we're just going to lock this down. And then when I let go of that, because there's a gasket in there now, it's not going to spin the housing. See how it stayed stable? So that's what you want. Oh, well. Okay. Let's see what we've got missing here. I know those are in there. Like I said, I usually keep some of the excess hardware. Sometimes I'll reuse it. Sometimes it's just to forensically relook at it, but you don't need to if you don't want to. You can certainly pitch it all. Okay. We are ready now for the air horn assembly to go on, and we are pretty close to being done. Other than a couple little details here. So when I put this air horn assembly on, just double check that the little pins here are correct in the floats. Just visually re-verify it. Make sure you got the needles in there. We got everything set. And then when you rotate this over from the back side, the floats will drop a little bit. No big deal. And then all you're going to do is just set this down in here. Now that little notch right there in the float is what goes in between that little baffle right there. So we're just going to roll that in, set it down. And sometimes it doesn't seat down on there. See how that air horn assembly is that way? I usually will just grab the accelerator pump, because it will usually bind there and it'll seat. So now all you gotta do is get some hardware going, and we'll be good to go. Maybe. I think that may have been the one. I was going to tell you I had one that was boogered up, and I think that was it. Again, my fault for not doing my due diligence on this carburetor, but there was a couple of the screws that were funky. Remember I said don't, electric gun or air these down. That's the reason why that screw in the back is messed up. So now that I know that we're seated in there, I can run these all the way down, and we're good to go. So, boop. That one back there was screwed up. I knew it was one of these ones in the back. But again, when you... I don't think this carburetor was abused on purpose, but I think it... There we go. Well, that was weird. All right. Oh, well. It's just telling me that I've been on here too long. How long have I been? An hour and a half. That's too long. So, anyway, we'll wrap this up. We're almost done. But what I was saying before I booted myself off is if you treat the hardware kind of easy, it will make going in and out of here. And again, I don't think this was purposely abused. I think it was just somebody that just didn't know what they were doing with it. And unfortunately, it's turned this carburetor, at least the air horn assembly, and a couple of these things into something that's just not in very good shape. But we can make use of it. I can use it on the channel to do some tuning and do some comparison videos. But as far as going out the door for anybody, I couldn't in good conscience send to anybody. So this one's a little, oh, there it goes. This one's a little stiff, but it's not bad. This one, I think, was our screwed up one. Yeah. It's way, way too tight. Now, I'm okay with this, but I wish you guys could feel it, but you can't. But again, we talked about the hardware being stiff going in and out, or going in or coming out. This one's stiff, so we just know that. Again, I don't think he did it on purpose. It was just not knowing. So just a quick little check. Make sure we're good to go. And again, we're just snugging this down. It's not, again, not Gorilla Man tight. So, all right. Last thing here is the piston step-up spring and needles. Now, I'm not changing these. They were correct. They had the orange step-up spring in there. I usually leave the orange in there just because it's a good reference, but that just drops in there. You see this hole over here. Oops. That's where the needle goes down through. That drops down into the jet that we installed underneath there. The piston and the spring go in that hole. So, again, don't force it. It's just, you're just trying to get it in there, and it's not, should have changed bits. But again, if you can't get the needle down in there, just don't push it, because it means you'll bend the needle. They're very, very small. I'll show you that here in a sec. The diameter is very small. See that? And a lot of times, if you were to put these into the air horn assembly and then try to install the air horn assembly with these installed, Riley will tell you they'll bend the heck out of the bottom of that needle pretty easily. So it's the last thing that I install, which also means we're getting close to being done. So and you'll know when it seats in there because it'll drop down in there. That cover will sit flush and you're good to go. All right, so again, nice and easy. Now, remember we talked about on the boosters, see that sticking through there? That hole, the booster has to have that air bleed reference through the top there, okay? If that's on there incorrectly, there's the other side over here. That's on incorrectly. When you put the air horn assembly on, it won't go down. And then if you beat it on there because you're not paying, you don't realize that these take a gentle touch. Yeah, it'll screw that up. So, I guess I should probably, actually look at how do I get a Riley sticker for my toolbox? Man, Gino, I'm so happy that you asked me that. If you go to Riley's Rebuilds on Facebook or Instagram, you will find the link to their Shopify store, and I believe they sell them on there. Fairly inexpensive, but hey, if it supports those young folks that are doing that kind of stuff, man, it's the coolest thing in the world. It warms this old guy's heart tremendously, and she's a good person. Her dad's a great guy. Don't know that I ever met her brother, but I have a feeling I'm going to one of these days. But that is a great group of kids for sure. Okay, almost done here. So in the kit, you got these horrible little clips. In the master rebuild kit, I include probably 30 or 40 of these things because these things go flying all over the place. So let's hook up the choke. And you'll kind of get used to these after a while, and they never get perfectly easy. But I usually just use my fingers, even though my hands are starting to show my age, and then snap the clip on there. And the clip's on there. The old black clip is on there. Yeah, I guess you can kind of see that. Not at all. And the other two are on the other side. So, accelerator pump rod and the fast idle cam rod doesn't have to go on there, even though it makes it a little bit easier on the fast idle cam. You've got an end here on the accelerator pump that doesn't have anything on it, just a knob, and then this one's got the little groove in it. The groove goes to the top. So because this is a 1906, it goes in the center hole. The center hole. Then a clip goes on there. We got one more to do here. And this bad boy will be done. That one's on. Now, this clip for the fast idle has a little one-way. You can kind of see that, I guess. And then the other side has got our little notch in it. So on the cam down here, that's the hole we're going into. But this is kind of funky the way that goes in there because it's only slotted one way, and then it rotates up, and then it goes into the choke. And then you can push it up on the fast idle cam, and it'll hold it up top. And our last little clip will go in. And I didn't lose any of them this time. That's cool. Edelbrock always sends you some extras. So that's why in the master rebuild kit that I sell, I include a ton of these things because you will lose them. So keep those over in my stash. Now, what did I not replace? These are the little retaining clips that go on the piston and the rod to hold the metering rod onto the piston. Now I sometimes will, because this one's staying with me, but if this was a rebuild, I would have replaced these on the rod, but I didn't, so I've got extras. And I've actually got a couple extra little clips. Like I said, Edelbrock always includes a whole bunch of them in there because you will lose them and it will irritate you. These are some smaller ones or bigger ones for some linkage that you don't need to take off. And that's our broken mixture screw. And that, my friends, is a rebuilt carburetor. Now, Edelbrock always includes the air horn gasket and base plate gasket. Always, please always use that air horn gasket to seal to the carburetor. So, cool. 1906, ready to go. Well, after I epoxy a fuel fitting in there. But anyway, it cleaned up good. It's got some issues, but again, for what I'm going to use it for, it's fine. You can check operation. You can check with fast idle. Cam comes off, the choke comes open. You can't check the operation of the choke, but what you can do is check to make sure that it closes all the way by grabbing that linkage, making sure you're up on the cam, and it will shut the linkage, and you know that it all works anyway. So, cool. Let's see here. If Riley can't get you their piston twisted, if Riley can't get you that, I will send it up to you. I'm pretty sure she can though, but I'll make sure that she saw your note. So, seems like I missed something. Yeah, this is weird. So the live stream, yeah, live stream software that I'm using, which actually finally freaking works. Anybody that's been around knows that I've fought the live stream stuff knows, but for whatever reason, the comments weren't showing up. So I'm a little behind here. But Riley's going to be doing a rebuild workshop at SEMA. That's pretty cool. I am sure there's probably going to be some video of that out there. So y'all watch her Facebook group if you're not in that. I'm sure her dad will probably live stream that, or maybe it'll be on Instagram or YouTube. I don't know, but I'll put a bug in his ear to make sure it is. That's kind of cool. Absolutely love that, Riley, that you're going to do that there at SEMA. How cool is that? So very, very cool. Some say camera adds 5 pounds. Camera's on live stream. Had 45 minutes. You ain't lying. I should have been done with this a while ago, but I apologize. I went into a lot of detail, but I wanted to cover a lot of things. But yeah, make sure you buy a good rebuild kit. Again, the CRC stuff is just more for my support, I guess, but consider using CRC products, just simply what they do with the Tech Force Foundation and scholarships for young kids like they did with Riley. I'm so stoked that she was here to talk a little bit about that. But that's just a very, very cool thing that they do. So I'll be a CRC fan now it's not like I'd never used it before, but I will purposely go out of my way to buy CRC stuff. So, but anyway, when you buy these used, just make sure you check them over really good. Air horn assembly come off. Make sure you pull the fuel out, fuel fitting out, and then pull out the idle mixture screws, and then you're just checking for garbage once you get the air horn assembly off. Anybody that's selling that carburetor should let you knock that thing apart. So just take some simple tools with you, and you should be in pretty good shape. So, question about the Loctite. Nope, I didn't. Again, I thought I was keeping up with the comments in here, but for whatever reason, I may have to do something different. Maybe I use my phone or something for that. But Yeah, I appreciate that, Mark. There's, I try to give as much detail as possible, and I know this is, hour and 45-minute video, right as I say that, but sometimes hard to watch that long. But I hope that I know there's a couple folks in the YouTube group in the Facebook group that made comment of that they were getting ready to build a 1905, I think. So hopefully that answered all of your questions. Oh, you know what? I think I ignored Brian's comment from very beginning. Annular booster, yeah. All right, sorry about that, man. I hope you're still here. Let me talk about that real quick. Get into my booster stash here. Now I don't know what these are, but we'll just pretend they're 1905s, 1906s. So the question that Brian had at the very beginning, and I totally blew him off, but I'm getting to it now, so it's good. The question that Brian had was, can you use the AVS2 booster in an older Performer Series carburetor that's got the straight leg booster? I'm going to do a video on this specifically. God, if I could ever get time on that truck again, I would do it fairly soon. The short answer to that question is no. Let me explain that. There's two things here. For you to get an annular booster means you're going to have to buy let's pretend we're talking 600 series carburetor. I don't know if you had said that, Brian, at the very beginning, but let's say you buy a 600 CFM 1406 or 1405 Performer Series carburetor, and you want to put an annular booster in there. The reason why you can't is these will physically fit into the 1406, no problem at all. The reason why you can't use these is because that booster, the annular booster, requires a different vacuum signal underneath the booster. This is on the manifold side. This is on the top side. And what happens is when you have a Venturi or the Bernoulli principle in effect here, when you have, boy, that was technical, wasn't it? When you have airspeed go through here in this choke point, it creates a vacuum underneath. When that drops, that is what has the signal. You hear about signal out of a manifold or a carburetor. That is the signal that the booster sees to start metering fuel out of the bowl and through the jet, up in here and out. The reason why Edelbrock went to a 650 and not a 600 is because the 600, you can see the inside of that straight leg, how big that is. You kind of see inside the annular. But anyway, there's little holes in there. But the reason why that doesn't work is they needed just a little bit more airspeed, so it has a little bit different signal underneath here to start metering the fuel. They tried to do the 600 with an annular booster, and it failed. They couldn't get the throttle response. They couldn't get it to tune correctly. Couldn't get it to the drivability, the off-idle, the mid-range. All of it was a little crazy, and they were going to scrap that program initially. They were just going to offer it in just the 750 only. But they realized there was a problem there too. The only reason they got that annular booster to work is to increase the CFM a little bit bigger. So that's the reason why the AVS2 is only available in a 650 and not a 600. It's because you need a bigger, you need more airspeed going through there. Okay. So that's the reason why. So, hey, Slant Daily Garage is here. There's another. See this other sticker over here? Slant Daily, local guy here to me. And he's one hell of an engineer. If you guys want to watch a really, really good podcast every week between him and usually a guest of his or another gentleman that's on that, he does a really good technical deal. He's a Mopar guy, but he has a lot of super technical stuff on the Mopar side. He's a Slant 6 guy. He's got a daily driven Dart 68, Shane. I can't remember what year it was. Sorry about that. But if you want a really cool channel and video cast, podcast, what do they call them when they're, it's not a vlog, whatever the heck it is. Check out Slant Daily Garage. That is another really good channel to check out. That content on there and the level of stuff that he explains things is second to none. So, like I said, local guy for me here too. So anyway, Brian, very beginning there, that's the reason why the 650 annular booster doesn't work in the old 600. The other side of that is you have to buy a 650 and then throw the whole carburetor away just to steal the boosters out of it. Well, I don't know what carburetors cost, but I know what that one was originally asking for it before I purchased it and found out it was kind of a scrap anyway. It wouldn't work. So we'll do a video on that down the road. Like I say, once I get the truck back up and running. But anyway, sorry about that, Brian. I hope you are still here. And if not, I apologize that you have to come back and wait till the very entire end of the video. 69 Dodge Dart is what Shane has there at Slant Daily Garage. So go check his channel out and subscribe and watch some of his technical videos. Like I said, it's every Wednesday, Shane, that your little tech talk happens. But yeah, you'll know. Just subscribe and turn notifications on, and you'll know when those are. But really, really good content. A lot of drag racing stuff, but he answers a lot of questions throughout the deal. So if you have any questions on engines and valve train and transmissions, especially, dude's got it knocked down. So great engineer, very, very smart guy. And yeah, yes, 7 p.m. Central. So very, very cool. So anyway, I think we've got all the questions. Nope, sorry. Damn it, Mark, I keep scrolling right past you. Worked on 1406, no fasters had blue or green Loctite. Yeah, I don't know why they would use Loctite on. No, you don't need Loctite on any of these now. Hang tight. I keep going back to this. Oop. Sometimes I've had somebody mention this. Edelbrock will mark these. See, it's got a green mark on there. That is for them to know when they go through the batch of what booster that is, or that it's been QC'd. I can't remember the exact, but that's the only green stuff on that carburetor. No Loctite on anything. Even the hardware that holds the throttle plates in, on the other side, which you can't see, it's staked, meaning that top side of that hardware is kind of rolled over. So that's the reason why the hardware doesn't come out of these things. Oop, just knocked the camera, sorry. That's the reason why these don't come out of there. Most of the time when you try to take the hardware out of here, take those throttle plates out, it will twist off in the throttle shaft. Okay. So no Loctite there either. Those knockoff carburetors we looked at a couple of weeks ago, these were just in there hand tight without them being staked over, or even worst case scenario or best case scenario with a little bit of Loctite. But anyway, but yeah, that's to answer your question on that. Sorry about that, Mark. Man, I just blew through everybody. I'll have to talk to Shane about teaching me how to use the StreamYard stuff. It's been well over a year since I was using this software. So, yeah, Piss and Twisted, you're kind of a little bit of a Mopar guy too, I think. But most Canadians are. Most Canadians have a love affair with the Mopar stuff. But Shane's got a couple of projects that he's working on his channel. So it's definitely worth the follow over there for all y'all. So, okay, well, I think that's it. Unless I totally missed a bunch of questions. And again, I apologize. I thought I had that dialed in, but I guess I don't. So anyway, no big deal. Anyway, more stuff coming. Like I said, SEMA next week. Probably do a live stream, hopefully from the NHRA event there on Sunday. I've got tickets to go. We'll see how things work out, but I'll do a live stream next Sunday. Yeah, it is next Sunday. Good grief. Not tomorrow Sunday, but the week after tomorrow. I'll do a live stream from SEMA to show you all the background or the behind the scenes stuff of a setup day. Like I said, we've done that for a couple of years in a row. Everybody seems to like that. And then before the show, we'll do some videos of the from the show. So try to do that first thing in the morning before it opens up, before the crowds get there, because you will see tons of SEMA videos, and it's usually from folks that are on the floor during the day, and it's literally a zoo. Well, it has been in years past. It's been a little more subdued these past couple of years post COVID, but that 2019, that last big show, it's chaos. That's especially on the performance floor. So, yeah, I usually will do it first thing in the morning because I can get access into there fairly early and then walk around so you can see stuff without 400 people standing in front of the camera. So I will do that. So, all righty. Well, I think we're got to the point. I'm at 2 hours, and I told myself I was going to do this in an hour, but fat lot of good that did. What a liar. Oh, well. Anyway, I appreciate y'all hanging out. If you got any questions, you can leave them on the video. I'm sure there'll be a few folks that ask some questions as we go, throughout the time after this video uploads again. So, but cool. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you check out those channels. Make sure you go subscribe to Riley's Rebuilds. They've got a great YouTube channel, YouTube and Facebook. Slant Daily Garage. Make sure you check out Mark. I didn't even mention you, buddy. There's your sticker over there. It's too small. Or I put it in the corner. I should have put it up closer. But that's the only 3 that I've got. So that should tell you something. All 3 of them were here in the channel tonight. But Piston Twisted Garage, Riley's Rebuilds, and Slant Daily Garage. All 3 of those channels are really good ones to go subscribe to. Piston Twisted's kind of active over there on Instagram too. So go check him out and certainly follow him over there too. And yeah, whew. Like I said, I can't believe we're at SEMA. So next videos coming are live from SEMA in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. So I will catch you all there. Good deal. All righty, guys. Y'all have a good rest of your evening. We will see you next week from Vegas.